Greetings to all my friends at AssaAbloy. It's your old friend Al Seegers from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Let me say first, thank you so much for coming to my assistance the last time that we were together. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the culture of safety and of care that really defines your company. After a trip to the hospital, everything turned out fine. I did have a slight ear infection, actually a major ear infection, and was dehydrated. So recovered, and I thought it would be nice for me to record this video as a way of saying thank you and to give you some extra coverage, so to speak, or maybe some bonus coverage of innovation. And that's what I want to do today. One of the things that's really interesting about innovation is that it's really mischaracterized quite a bit, and sort of almost amplified in a way that just distorts, sort of that true process of innovation. So what I thought would be fun today is to take you behind the scenes and show you an innovation process that was used and actually I think used very successfully in the motion picture Wall-E. It was one of my favorite projects and certainly I think turned out quite nicely in terms of an innovation outcome. So let me take you into that world and show you exactly how that was done. So what's really interesting about innovation is sort of that process of coming up with the good idea. How do we discover good ideas? And I think from that standpoint, what you really have to think about is a process. It's certainly not just magic. It's something that is more methodical, something that is more data driven, and I think something that results in great outcomes. So let me show you how that process works. Basically, what you're trying to do when you're faced with a challenge is to consider everything before you decide on something. This was the way that I remembered, doing things, working with Apple and with Pixar, is that we would look at everything. You try to consider, the entire scope or the entire frontier of what you might do, and then you whittle your way down into the something that you will do. Now, the way that you move to that more specific something is by determining what does not work, which I think is a really clever way. It's actually easier to determine what doesn't work than what does work in the beginning when you're considering a lot of different alternatives. So let me show you how this works. Basically, what you do is you build frontiers. You ask yourself what is possible. And let me show you how that works out as a technique. Basically, you draw a 2 by 2, and you can see it in the lower part of this diagram, dimension 1 and dimension 2. You draw a 2 by 2. You choose two dimensions that will frame the most interesting space out there. Now, let me show you how you actually choose those dimensions. You use small words like who, how, where, what, when, why. Small words can ask big questions. And that's what we want to do here is ask big questions. So dimension 1 might be our who dimension. Dimension 2 might be our how dimension if we were trying to determine the next person to hire. We choose dimensions that give us a lot of space. Then what we do is we take those dimensions and we frame them as extremes. You can see at the 12 o'clock position, one extreme of dimension 1. At the 6 o'clock position, the other extreme of dimension 1. At the 9 o'clock dimension, one extreme of dimension 2. And at the 3 o'clock position, the other extreme of dimension 2. Now, these anchors or these extremes can be centralized. decentralized, traditional, non-traditional. What you're trying to do again is build a big fishing net. So you're trying to frame these things as a big radar screen. Again, the thing that we're trying to do here is to consider everything until we choose something. So our task here is to build a grid or to build a framework or a map, however you want to think about it, that considers a lot of different alternatives. Once we've done that, you are left with four frontiers. At that point, you can go in and try to determine what is the best answer. What is the thing that we should do? So that's the way it's done. And again, to conceptualize it, looking at everything, trying to choose something, and the way we determine something is figure out what does not work. So let me show you how this worked in Wally, and I think you'll love this example. So with Wally, what's really interesting is you'll get in Pixar scripts, but there is no determination. There is no guarantee that you're going to be able to animate that script. So you've got a story, but unless you can put compelling characters together to try to animate or bring that script to life, you really don't have much. And so in pre-production, one of the things that has to be determined is, can we bring this script to life through animation? So this technique, frontier building, is absolutely perfect for this. We can go in and take a look at everything that's been done and try to determine the something that we might do to bring this script to life. So let me show you how it worked in Wally. First of all, again, this is another photograph that I have of pre-production. Again, that determination of whether we can bring this script to life. So what was really done here is we, again, start and ask ourselves, what are two characteristics that are common to all robots? What we're trying to do is to identify those two dimensions so that we can build a map that gives us a lot of possibilities, that looks at everything. So when we think about robots, there are two defining dimensions: what they are. So remember those small words, what, and who they are. What they are basically addresses their physical form. The extremes of that can be robotic or human. So notice on the form dimension there, we've created a lot of space. We're looking at everything, robotic or human in physical form. When we go to personality, we do the same thing. The personality can be very robotic, very cold, very matter of fact, or the personality can be more human. Now, notice here what we've done is we've built us a lot of space to work with. And that's the name of the game here. We're trying to look at everything. If we put these two things together, we now have a visual map that tells us everything that's possible. So there's a lot of beauty here. First of all, the map is fairly simplistic, but it covers a lot of ground. So take a look at the grids. At the top left, we have Rosie the robot, a very robotic form, a very robotic personality. There's nothing wrong with that. It may fit the script. It may not. We don't know yet. We can put some examples in there. Rosie the robot herself, R2-D2 from the Star Wars movies, Lost in Space. And we can start to think about how those different characterizations played out in stories. If we move to the right, we go to Short Circuit. Now notice here the personality becomes more human, but the form remains robotic. The Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, Johnny Five from the movie Short Circuit, after which this grid is named, C-3PO from Star Wars. So this is a very enduring, a very, I think, attractive form, a very robotic type of form with a human personality. It may fit the script, it may not. If we move down below the horizon, we go to the Terminator in the bottom left, a very robotic type of personality, but a very human form. Data from Star Trek was another example of this. Sort of an interesting, characterization here. It may fit the script, it may not. We don't know yet, but at least we've identified the frontier. Westworld, human form, human personality. Westworld was taken from a 1970s movie called Westworld that starred Yul Brynner. And again, here you've got a sort of a very interesting combination, in terms of robotics, a very human type of robotic. In Blade Runner, we really liked what they had done, Ridley Scott had done with the replicants. That was also a very interesting, type of characterization, of robot to fit into a story. It may fit our story, it may not. So, what is our next step? Once we've built this map of frontiers, what we can do next is test them. We're not going to guess. Let's gather data. So what was done is that 2 examples from each grid were created and then inserted into the script. And then test audiences evaluated those characters. We're not going to guess. Let's let the audience tell us what they like. So that was done. 2 examples, and I'll have to say, of the 8 examples that were done across the 4 grids, they were all stellar. I mean, I can remember thinking that, I just didn't know. You just didn't know how the audience was going to react to it. I had some biases myself about what I thought would work, but let's let the audience tell us. Well, they did. The data was collected. The worst one was Westworld. Westworld absolutely did not work. That was very, very clear. Audiences didn't like it, didn't resonate with the character, it didn't resonate with the story. So Westworld was out. We figured out what doesn't work. The next worst was Terminator. Terminator absolutely did not work in the script. Audiences didn't like it. I was a little surprised that Nothing Below the Horizon seemed to resonate because we had some good animations there. It just didn't resonate. The audience just didn't like it. So that leaves 2, Short Circuit and Rosie the Robot. And the data said tie. It was a tie. And this is when I think innovation gets really, really interesting. It was a tie. So, what to do? How do we resolve this? And so what Pixar did, which I think was very clever, is Wall-E is actually animated dominantly as a robot. However, he is put into situations. He is given reactions that make you want to make him more human than he is. It's you doing it. So while Wall-E is robot, you and your imagination are making him more human than he is. And that's part of the Pixar magic. Your imagination becomes part of the presentation. And that was what was done in Wall-E. And that was how a character such as this is created and is animated in film. So let me show you Wall-E, give you a short clip here, and you can see the artwork in action here.
Wow.
And that's how it's done. Again, the key here is to consider everything. Draw out a map. Again, that 2 by 2 with the dimensions and the extremes works very, very well for this. And then move towards something by figuring out what does not work. And that's the key to it. That's the way innovation is done. So I hope you enjoyed that bonus coverage with the example of Wally. Let me say this, it's always a privilege, to come before a group. Always fun to tell stories and to sort of think about innovation in maybe a different way. As I was telling you at the end of our session, Mariah Carey was probably one of the most interesting people that I got a chance to talk to about innovation. She was down on her luck at one time. She was really struggling with her music. She had made a movie that was absolutely a disaster. The soundtrack to the movie was absolutely a disaster. And she was now creating a new recording project. Her record company basically told her that if this recording does not succeed, that we're going to drop you. Well, which would have been devastating to her. It would have been notoriety that you do not want in the music industry. So she starts her new project. What she decided to do was to try to appease some of her fan base, her existing fan base, by recording one half of the tracks of the new project in her very old style. The traditional Mariah Carey soaring ballad, high notes, dramatic style. The other half of the recordings would be done more in hip hop style, new rhythms, new types of music, at least new to her. And so she was going to almost try to have it both ways with this recording project to play it safe. They recorded the project. They listened to it. It was a disaster. They absolutely could not believe that it was so bad. They listened to it again. Again, no, it just didn't seem to be the right thing. So Mariah Carey basically was left with a conundrum. She now had something that was potentially another disaster, like the previous record she had recorded, Glitter. Or do you just take a chance, or do you think about it, re-record it? What do you do? Well, Mariah Carey came to an incredible revelation. What she realized, and she basically said she had to be the one to realize it because no one's going to tell the star what to do. So she had to come to the realization is that you can't take new ideas and stack them on top of old ideas. It just wasn't going to work. It wasn't enough of a departure. It didn't really meet the needs of a very changing audience. Even some of her dedicated listeners had moved on. So what Mariah Carey decided to do was to eliminate the old sounding songs and make the entire record hip hop, new types of rhythms. She realized you can't take new ideas and stack them on top of old ideas. Mariah Carey won 5 Grammy Awards for the recording. It is seen as not only her best recording, it is seen as one of the best recordings of hip hop music and rhythm and blues ever. So she carved a new path again by being willing to let go of the old ideas and accept the new ideas. It's quite courageous for someone that was at a point in her life where courage, innovation, and bravery were not exactly at the top of her list of things to try. So it was an incredible story, incredible outcome. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you can feel my sincere thanks to you for the wonderful work that you do, for the absolute care you take in being a world leader, in creating a way into and out of a place. I love the fact that that's what you do. So thanks for that. Remember, keep reaching for the stars, and soon the stars will reach back for you. Thank you. God bless, and see you soon.